Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Tuesday, July 25th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Notre Dame game is in 39 days, the game against Michigan in 123 days. Before we get started today, a little bit of news. A bunch of familiar faces are teaming up to start a new Ohio State site. Mark Givler, Alex Gleitman, Tony Gerdeman, Ross Fulton, Justin Whitlatch, and myself, all part of BuckeyeHuddle.com. The full site is not launched yet, so if you go to that URL, you're just going to get a landing page right now, but that full site is still just a few days away, and you can already join the board just as a free member for now. It will be a pay site ultimately, but you can find the link in my Twitter feed, twitter.com/TomOr4. Once it is all set up and running, it's going to require membership to access the board, but for right now, it's all free. You don't need to put a credit card in. And the timing, frankly, could not be any better because the unofficial start of college football season is here. Big Ten Media Days are Tuesday and Wednesday this week, which is why this episode has coming to you from a somewhat echoey Indianapolis hotel room. It also means we're going to get to hear from all 14 Big Ten coaches, plus Commissioner Kevin Warren and players from each of the teams. Between conference realignment, possible changes to the Big Ten scheduling model, maybe the college football playoff, maybe a total shift in the future of the sport. There should be a good bit to talk about. And that's before you even get into the actual football that we played this fall, which also should be a little bit of fun to talk about. So to talk about all of the talking about things, one of those familiar faces I mentioned earlier, Tony Gerdeman. He is not in Indianapolis, but he will be very busy this week with all the media days fun anyway. Tony, thanks for being here.
Tom, thank you for having me. Please do not tell me what I have to do. Don't tell me that I'm going to be busy. Just appreciate me being here for you as always. And let's just get on with the show. But also great to be here in this entirely new venture. I am very excited about it.
I think we are all very excited about it and very excited to be able to continue to working together. I think we all had a lot of fun working together at a previous site and are looking forward to getting to do even more stuff now moving forward. Should be a lot of fun. Something else that should be a lot of fun is media days. And I think when you explain that to someone, you get a lot of, wait, why is that fun? Why is this something you guys look forward to? Because it's just, you go sit and you talk to football coaches and football players, and a lot of times a lot of the guys are trying not to answer your question. You know, what's the one game you really have to win this year? And they definitely don't want to answer that question. Or who's, what do you guys really, the team really fell apart last year. How do you avoid having the team fall apart this year? Like, they're not going to want to answer that kind of question. But you do end up learning a lot over the course of these days. But to me, the event itself is almost sort of secondary to the fact that this is like the first thing. This is the start. Why to you, Tony, is this, is Media Day something that we kind of look forward to every year?
Yeah. As you're talking, I'm thinking and this may be a bad analogy, but remember in school, grade school, elementary, when you would look forward to field day, it signified the end of the school year, but also the start of summer. Media days is kind of like field day, and that it signifies the end of the doldrums and it's the start of the fun time of the year, and the fun time of the year being the college football season. So it's just the unofficial official start of that. And for us, for media, there's it's the start of the work year, basically. Like this, there is not a lot of difference in terms of just the start of having to produce season-long content from in July at the media days to October at some random game. Like, this is all one long enjoyable journey, and it starts at media days and it doesn't stop until we finally wrap up at whatever bowl game or playoff spot, and then you take a breather for a couple of weeks before spring ball starts. So it's the start of 4 months of a really, really good time.
So it sounds to me like, after protesting earlier, you might in fact be kind of busy this week. All right, good. Glad we're on the same page there. Last year when we were here in Indy for the event, I was kind of thinking, I was like, what happened last year? There's something crazy that happened last year. It was like, oh yes, the news broke about Texas and Oklahoma going to the SEC. This year, it feels like a lot of the conversation is going to center around USC, UCLA, maybe who could be moving next for the Big Ten. I'm sure we will hear Notre Dame discussed a little bit over the course of these 2 days. What is something that you're hoping to learn on that front over the next couple of days? What is a question that you would really be interested in hearing the answer to on the conference realignment front this week?
I think maybe something shocking on that front would just be if Kevin Warren, Big Ten commissioner, were to say, yes, we are still looking to expand and we are in negotiations or we are talking. Like if he were to admit something like that, because I think the standard answer that we all expect is the Big Ten is not looking to expand at this moment, and because what they'll say is they weren't looking to expand previously, but UCLA and USC came to them. And so if they're not going to be actively, quote unquote, actively looking and they're just going to be waiting for other programs to apply, there's plausible deniability in that. Say, no, we're not looking to expand, but our PO box is blah, 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 if somebody wants to drop off an application. So I think if he were to admit that they're this is still an ongoing thing and that they would like to get to 18 or 20, which, that to me would be very, very newsworthy. That's why I don't expect it. I'm also interested to hear what the other coaches and players think about this, think about, the addition of USC, UCLA, where it goes. Do they want Notre Dame? Who the coaches specifically, because they're going to have to deal with all of these other programs. Where are they in this? And is there some, reticence? Are they worried about losing the idea, the feeling of the Big Ten Conference, where there's just too many teams in the conference?
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to hear also, the difference between, you have Rutgers in the conference in the Northeast and Maryland, and then you have USC and UCLA. That's a lot of travel too, and how are they going to handle the travel, and how much of a concern is that for some of these coaches? That's another one where I know they have concerns, and I'm sure those are, well-founded concerns. I don't know how openly they're going to be willing to discuss it. Coaches are, focused on the next thing, this being potentially a couple of years away. I don't know how willing guys are going to be to talk about that and, to be thinking about that yet, but it'll be a fun week to ask, and we'll see what kind of answers we get. And, this is the one time of year every year when everyone is together. You get half the teams on Tuesday, half the teams on Wednesday. The coaches are all together at one point. The coaches from Tuesday stick around a little bit longer, and then the coaches from Wednesday get there a little earlier so that they are all together at one point. Which team or teams is maybe the most intriguing to you this fall in the Big Ten? In the on-field kind of, I think Notre Dame is maybe the most intriguing team right now in the off-field sense, even though they're not a member. But which of the programs is maybe more intriguing to you in an on-field sense this fall, either from a, hey, these guys might be pretty good sense, or a, hey, these guys might be 2 or 3 bad weeks away from firing their coach kind of sense?
Well, I have 3 teams in mind, and 2 of those are based on what happened last year, and that's Michigan and Michigan State. Both were much better than everybody expected. So people maybe underestimated them last year. Now, are they overestimating Michigan and Michigan State? And how do they respond? How do they, are they able to keep where they are or where they were last year, build upon that, do better, or do they come back down to earth a bit? Also, Iowa, which should have one of the best defenses in the Big Ten, but what they do offensively, and it's never entertaining. Not since 2002 or 2005 with Drew Tate have they been, all that entertaining on offense. So they'll have a defense, but how many games are they going to win 17-14, and how painful is it going to be to watch it? If they would just have an offense that could produce 35, 38 points, could that be a 10, 11 win program? And the big in the West, yeah. But every week is going to be a tough game for them, essentially, because the talent levels in the West are so equal. So their defense could set them apart, but the offense can bring them back to, into everybody else's realm. So I think those 3 teams for me are some of the ones that I'll be watching. Of course, we always watch Michigan closely, and the Michigan State thing just being such a big jump from where they were the year before, and such a big drop from the year before that. Like they're just up and down right now, so they're due to be down. But maybe Mel Tucker is the right guy.
when you look at, what is Michigan being a little overrated based off last year? Is Michigan State being a little overrated based off last year? If they are, it did not show up in that annual Cleveland.com poll of Big Ten media. They released that this week. Somewhat unsurprisingly, the Buckeyes are the pick to win the league. But something that was kind of surprising to me was they were a unanimous pick to win not only the East, but the league on the whole. And, I think maybe, after a season where they lost to Michigan, they didn't win the East, they didn't make it to Indianapolis, let alone win the Big Ten. Are you kind of surprised that everyone just sort of assumes Ohio State will do it again this year?
I am a little surprised, especially 1 year after they didn't win the Big Ten. So if you're going to pick Ohio State to not win it, this would be the year because you saw them not do it last year. And also, you would think that somebody would just throw something out there because you know how sports writers are. They like to be out on an island and say, told you, I had Purdue all along. I picked Purdue to win the Big Ten, and look what they did. They finished second in the West. That's pretty close. So yeah, it's definitely that was surprising to me that everybody, I guess, did the right thing. Which, I mean, yes, you should pick Ohio State to win the Big Ten, but how often does that happen when everybody does it? And it's not like Ohio State wins it every year. But if you're making a bet, and that's kind of what this is, you're going to put your money at the smartest bet, and that's Ohio State. But still, yeah, to have however many voters, 30 some or whatever it was, that was surprising to me that you just didn't have one outlier who wanted to be the smartest guy in the room per se.
Yeah, and the reason that the poll is done by Cleveland.com is because the Big Ten does not hold its own media poll the way most other leagues do. The SEC does the official SEC media poll, and they put out the results, and someone gets picked to finish first, and someone gets picked to finish last, and everyone's just kind of okay with that. I am genuinely not sure why the Big Ten doesn't do that, but they don't. They don't do all league teams either. They do, however, do a 10-member preseason list of honorees, which, okay, sure. This year, there are 3 Buckeyes out of the 5 guys on the Big Ten East who made the list. So they take 5 from the East, 5 from the West. Out of the guys from the East, 1 from Michigan, 1 from Michigan State, 3 from Ohio State. And I guess that's one reason to feel optimistic about the chances to make good on that media pick to win the Big Ten. But who were the 3 guys who from Ohio State who were chosen to that 10-member preseason list of honorees?
Yeah, all 3 on offense: quarterback CJ Stroud, running back Travion Henderson, and wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba. I wonder if Buckeye fans would maybe feel a little bit better if maybe Henderson was replaced by a defensive Buckeye or something like that, if they had somebody like that who was that well regarded. I did think it was a little interesting. I think CJ Stroud was the only unanimous pick among all 10 players, which means that somebody left Jackson Smith and Jigba off of their 5-man ballot in the East. And you wonder, for one, who was that and who do you leave him off the ballot for? Because I think of all of the Big Ten players, you're going to be hard pressed to leave CJ Stroud and Jackson Smith and Jigba off your ballot. And I don't, should Ohio State have 40 or 60% of the Big Ten East? Whatever. I think those 2 guys are the 2 best players in the Big Ten, arguably. So to leave them off of the East players to watch or outstanding players or whatever they term it now is, I think, is that more surprising than everybody picking the Big Ten or picking the Buckeyes to win the Big Ten? Maybe not, but I think it's more egregious.
It is pretty, I don't know what the argument for leaving him off of there is. He broke virtually every Ohio State receiving record last year and is back and probably going to be at least, at least in the neighborhood of that good again this year and possibly even better. So yeah, I'm not sure there's a real compelling argument there. And he's also not someone who, can sort of slip your mind where, I forgot about him. Like he just set basically every record in the world during the Rose Bowl, which is a game that a few people watched last year. So yeah, I'm not sure what the argument for leaving him off of there is, but we can get mad at our media brethren for everyone jumping on the Ohio State bandwagon for the winning the Big Ten, and then someone outlandishly not jumping on the bandwagon for Jackson Smith and Jigba. Tony, can these media types do anything right? Let me answer that for you. No,
Well,
very obviously not.
Yeah, I will say that how can they forget him? Let's not forget that the Big Ten's official stats website last year did not have Jackson Smith and Jigba listed prior to like the December all Big Ten voting. Like he was just not on there in the stats, and he had over like 1,000 yards receiving. And for whatever reason, he just wasn't part of it, and that's why he finished like, I don't know, third team all Big Ten or something like that. Because the writers will go, oh, let me go check the stats. Okay, these are the 6 guys I'm choosing because those are the 6 guys listed. And then like a week later, Jackson Smith and Jigba shows up in the stats, and everybody's like, "Oh, forgot about him."
Oh, right. The guy with 15 catches against Nebraska. Oh, him. Yes. Ah, yes. Well, we will be remembering some guys tomorrow or later on today and tomorrow. Today is the first day of Big Ten Media Days. There are 7 teams here today, including Michigan, and then 7 teams on Wednesday, including Ohio State. So there should be plenty to talk about. We will have a bunch of coverage there on that on the board. I mentioned it earlier at the top of the show. BuckeyeHuddle.com, but again, BuckeyeHuddle.com doesn't go anywhere just yet. But if you follow the link that all of us have tweeted out, you can sign up to become a member of the board there. Totally free right now, and should be plenty of fun stuff to talk about. We'll have plenty of video coverage, probably some podcasts, all sorts of great stuff from Indianapolis. Should be a really fun day. We are really excited to be back up and running and back to covering football. And hooray, football is almost here. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.